Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to today's webinar on creating impact, social innovation in the EU bioeconomy. It's hosted by the EU-funded 3CO project. My name is Dushica Banduka. I'm a member of the nova-Institut, and together with my colleague, Dr. Anke Schwarzenberger, we're responsible for the communication and dissemination within 3CO. The nova-Institut is a science-based consultancy based in Western Germany. And in this project, we are participating with our communications department as well as our economy and policy department. So to give you a little insight on the 3CO project, it's examining certification and labeling in the EU bioeconomy on a business-to-consumer level. And our goal is to improve sustainability labels and the way they communicate with consumers. It's about developing robust labels for bio-based systems and also to influence consumer behavior through smart eco-labels and digital solutions. Therefore, we developed an app, which you will hear a little bit more in other events, in the upcoming events, but we will also develop guidelines for labeling and certification scheme holders. And if you would like to stay up to date, please subscribe to our newsletter. So in today's webinar, I'm excited to welcome three experts. It will be John Voss from the Biobest Technology Group, Zorica Kirasieva from Ecologic Institute, and Stefanos Kamperis, who will introduce the case study of Staramaki. We also have a few upcoming events. So if you're interested in the label guidelines, you can support us in validating some of our recommendations on the 12th of September in an online workshop. We will also be present at the Renewable Materials Conference in Siegburg, which will start on September 22nd. And we also are hosting our final 3CO event on the 21st of October, which will also take place online. So please take a look at our website and sign up for it. Some housekeeping rules. So in case you have additional questions for the speakers, we will have a Q&A at the very end of the session. So please address each speaker with @ and their specific names. And also, if you would maybe like to voice a comment verbally, please raise your hand and we will unmute you. And afterwards, you will be able to find all the materials and recordings at the 3CO website. And with this, I would like to introduce our first speaker. You can already get ready sharing, John. This will be John Voss from the Biomass Technology Group. He is a generalist who holds a degree in business management and development studies at the University of Twente. And he also provides more than 30 years of international experience, mainly working on energy, materials, and products derived from biomass. In EU-funded projects, he is also very active in different capacities. For example, conducting studies and awareness-raising assignments. And within the 3CO project, he leads the task on research activities on social innovation. Please take it away, John.
Okay, thank you, Dushica. So social innovation, there are tens of different definitions for social innovation around. A simply one that you see here is from Nobel and others who say that there are new ideas that work in meeting social goals. For the purpose of the 3CO project, we developed our own definition where we define social innovations as new ideas that can be products, services, or models that simultaneously meet social needs more effectively than alternatives, that create new social relationships or collaborations, and that foster sustainable consumption patterns. Some famous examples of social innovation in different categories. They vary from food sharing programs to upcycling and recycling initiatives to clothing swapping platforms to mutual aid programs, open source software projects, just to mention a few. So what did we do in 3CO with regard to social innovation? We developed a brochure with good practices. And why did we develop this brochure? Well, on the one hand, it serves as an inspiration, where it is a standalone reference for various types of stakeholders, and presents them with inspirational good practice examples that are related to the bioeconomy or the circular economy. And on the other hand, it is also an input for policy, feeding into policy recommendations. How did we come together and how did we produce this brochure? Well, firstly, we explored. We built this brochure bottom up, and gradually widening the scope, we first brainstormed internally, then included related sister projects, etc. And finally went to the open online survey to attract ideas and suggestions for relevant social innovations. And why did we follow this approach? We wanted to have a wider geographical scope than just the partner countries and just beyond the examples that we all knew from our own experience. We really wanted to be exclusive as possible. So all in all, through this approach, we arrived at a long list of more than 100 social innovations. And then we had to reduce this number. And we developed our own assessment methodology, including 15 criteria. And they refer to three main categories. One is social engagement collaboration. The second one is generating social benefits. And the third one is generating environmental benefits. And applying these selection criteria, we reduced the long list to 17 good practice examples. These 17 examples we then further elaborated into fact sheets. And we did this by combining, on the one hand, collecting information from desk research, mainly through internet, and by holding interviews with representatives of the social innovation examples. So, as said, the brochure aims to address various stakeholder groups. On the one hand, we have citizens and communities. The second key stakeholder group that we focus on is private businesses. And thirdly, there's the public sector. And the 17 fact sheets were then combined into a single brochure. You see some examples of the front page of the fact sheets, and you see also the link where the brochure is accessible. The fact sheets, they all have more or less the same content. It's a harmonious content where we address the spark or motivation, what initiated the social innovation. We describe how the social innovation is structured and operating. Then we look at the social impacts and benefits. Next, we look at the environmental impacts and benefits. And finally, we looked at the replication potential. Next slide. Yeah, I already mentioned previously that we ever expanded our reach to make sure that we would have a broad geographical coverage. And the coverage includes not only the three co-partner countries, Belgium, Finland, Germany, Netherlands, and Spain, but also 5 other countries in Europe, France, Greece, Hungary, Italy, and Switzerland. And even beyond Europe, where we have examples from Australia and California. So to give you a bit of an idea about what is being covered in the fact sheets, I will give you 3 examples. And the first example is the Library of Things. It's the LIBA from Switzerland. A Library of Things is any collection of objects loaned and any organization that practices such loaning. But many tool libraries are broader. They aren't only about sharing items. They also bring people together. They organize educational programs and public events, and they create communities. And a good example of a Library of Things from Switzerland is LIBA, as mentioned. It's a volunteer-run and community-driven initiative located in Bern. And the LIBA concept was actually initiated by the Swiss Consumer Protection Organization and funded through crowdfunding. LIBA opened its doors in December 2018 and is operated by the LIBA Bern Association since spring 2019. And this idea has sprung off since, because it has been replicated across the country, where the model or an adaptation of that is being applied, and you find LIBA type or LIBA-like libraries of things now across Switzerland in 23 different localities. The second example is from the Netherlands. It's called Oma Soup, which in English translates as Grandma's Soup. The idea behind Oma Soup is loneliness is a major and growing problem in the Netherlands and elsewhere in Europe. And lonely people experience both emotional and social loneliness. Then, inspired by one of the grandmothers of 2 friends, they came up with the concept of a social enterprise that wants to, on the one hand, make good use of food leftovers, and on the other hand, bring together young and old people to combat the loneliness of the latter through various activities, and that includes the cooking days, soup at home days, etc. The social enterprise is operated as a foundation, and it is funded in part from the proceeds of a commercially operating sister company. that produces soup based on recipes from grandmothers. This initiative found its origin in our capital, in Amsterdam, and has since been replicated to 12 other cities across the Netherlands, all of them university cities. The young people are usually student volunteers, and they cook together with the elderly people that bring their ideas about recipes. And in that way, they make a nice contribution to fighting loneliness, and at the same time, a saving of vegetables that otherwise go to waste. The third example that we have covered in the brochure is from Catalonia in Spain. It is called RRR Biocosmetics, with RRR referring to reduce, recycle, and reuse. Here the idea is that through regulations, the European Commission seeks to reduce the negative environmental impact of all types of packaging. But the company RRR Biocosmetics didn't want to wait for such regulation to come into force, and they launched their own pack return program that closes the loop in cosmetic packaging. The cosmetics themselves are also biocosmetics. They are eco-friendly and organic. And unlike many cosmetic brands that rely on single-use plastics, this scheme activates environmentally conscious consumers to return the packaging of its body products, and in this case, they are recyclable aluminum bottles, instead of disposing them. When the packaging comes back, it's cleaned, it's refilled and recycled, and this is done by people with functional diversity. And in this way, the social enterprise contributes both to waste reduction as well as environmental sustainability. Well, a fourth example of a case study that will be described in more detail will be done by one of our other speakers today. In total, as I said, there are 17 examples in the brochure. I just touched on 3 of those. There are 14 others. Summary, what can be concluded? Well, we had a very diverse range of social innovations. I showed you on one of the first slides that we find them in various different areas. So is there one single common denominator? Not so easily. But what is true is that social innovations can take place in every sector of society. They often foster community bonds. And that's the case, for example, in gardening or in cleanups. And innovations also often benefit disadvantaged people, such as the elderly and the underemployed. And to conclude this brief introduction, as I illustrated, hopefully, with these 3 examples, the social innovations illustrate the diversity of environmental and social benefits. And as I also mentioned previously in this talk, is that the information collected and the insights gained during the development of these fact sheets and brochures was also a touch point for a report on policy recommendations, how to promote and support social innovation initiatives. And our next speaker will actually go into more detail on this topic. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, John. With this, I would also like to introduce our next speaker, who is Zorica Kurasieva from the nova-Institut. She is a senior fellow in the field of bioeconomy, and she coordinates European research activities at the nova-Institut. Her research focuses on the potential of the bioeconomy to drive regional development and to promote sustainable use of resources. And as John mentioned, she is also the author behind the policy recommendations for implementing social innovation.
Hello, everyone. Can you see my presentation in the presenter mode?
Yes, looks perfect.
Okay. Yeah, hello from me. I'll take over from here and we'll focus on the challenges that social innovation initiators and owners face and how to address them, or what the policy can do about this. These policy recommendations were developed based on a stakeholder input, and I will first start with a little bit of a background on the policy and funding frameworks. So first, social innovation is indeed gaining recognition, especially at European level, but it's not a new term. It's been around for many, many years. You can see, for example, here on the picture, this Guide to Social Innovation published by the European Commission is from 2013. And the first definition by the European Commission also dates back in 2010. So it's been around for a long time. But it's increasingly is mentioned in different policy strategies. For example, the European Green Deal, the bioeconomy strategy, the circular economy action plan. They all emphasize the need of social innovation if we want to promote sustainable production and consumption, or to scale up small-scale business models, community-driven business models, if we want to foster transformation in the society. So we also have the social economy action plan that highlights, it's from 2021, and also highlights the importance of social innovation, especially at regional and at local level, and also ask for improving access to finance and encouraging participation in such social innovation projects and initiatives. Beyond the European level, we have different countries where social innovation is integrated in different policies. For example, Germany has its dedicated national strategy for social innovation and social enterprises. It's quite new, from 2023. But there are also other countries where social innovation is integrated in different programs, like circular economy programs, or integrated in funding schemes. As for the European funding programs, Horizon Europe is quite important, especially its European Innovation Ecosystems program. But social innovation is also a cross-cutting priority under the cluster, the Societal Challenges cluster is in Horizon. We have the European Social Fund Plus, especially its initiative Social Innovation, that tries to foster green jobs, inclusive society, promotion of digital solutions, social inclusion. And the LEADER program is also quite important, as it fosters local partnerships and community-based bottom-up strategies and projects. There are some more negative current development. For example, it's still not clear if the German national strategy will be continued, what will be the future, but also the European Social Fund Plus has been almost cut from the next European budget. Now it's back in the budget, but the future still remains unclear how much funding will be allocated, what will be the main focus of the fund. And I believe that this will be something that we will discuss during the final conference in October. So you're all invited to be part of this discussion on the current political developments around social innovation. Okay, about the methodology, how we developed this recommendation very quickly. As I said, they are based on stakeholder input. We conducted interviews mainly with our good practice examples of social innovation, and we asked about the challenges social innovation initiators face, about the support mechanism they either used or they need, and their vision for a supporting policy environment. After we analyzed the interviews, we drafted some policy recommendations, and then we validated them with stakeholders during an online workshop. We also got some feedback via emails, and we integrated this feedback and finalized the policy recommendations. I don't know, Dušica, maybe you can post the link to the final version of the policy recommendation in the chat box in the meantime.
Yes, of course.
And before I start with the recommendation, just a few words about the common challenges, because most of the interview partners, they face the same challenges. So I guess it's not surprised that social innovation projects often struggle to secure public and private funding. This is on the one hand. On the other hand, there were also some voices expressing concerns that there is a too high dependency on public funding, on external funding, and this funding are not always reliable because they depend also on political shifts. And if funding stream is cut, then the project already initiated cannot be continued. So it's a bit of a challenge for the long-term impact of social innovation projects. There are also some regulatory burdens that were seen as is quite relevant, because non-profit organizations, social enterprises, and social innovation, they have a different cost structure and different operational structure, and often the regulations are not tailored to their need. The expensive certifications and slow approval process were also mentioned as a common challenge, because in that case, market entry for certain products, it's very, very hard. Then we had also some collaboration and networking barriers. Many social innovation owners said that they are not seen as kind of a real business, and that there is a lack of awareness, which make it harder for them to gain support, whether it's from public institutions, from private partners, or even from the general public when it comes to crowdfunding initiatives. Another issue is that social innovation projects often work a bit isolated, that they're not always part of larger networks or ecosystem, and they miss these opportunities to learn from each other, to collaborate, to share resources and knowledge. And now to the policy recommendations. So we've divided our policy recommendation into three main clusters. The first one is on funding and regulatory support. So there is a need for more accessible EU funding, also national funding, and more simplified application processes. Applications should be more streamlined, with simpler and more clearer rules, also with expanded eligibility. And there should be more dedicated programs focused on specific social themes like loneliness, inclusion, sustainability. There is a need of advisory services that assist with the applications. Also, the role of regional development agency is quite relevant for social innovation, because, as John already said, social innovation happens mostly at regional level, like as a community or bottom-up project, and the support is needed also at regional level. So it will be important to equip regional development agencies with more personal and financial resources so they can support this kind of projects. Tax incentives for social innovation could be also very important. There are quite a lot actually across Europe, but these policies can encourage more eco-friendly and socially beneficial practices. And there is a need to support certification costs and offer guidance program for the certification process. The next cluster is on more structural and strategic measures. For example, public procurement could play an important role and should prioritize social innovation products and services by establishing legal requirement, for example, with binding human rights, environmental criteria. In Germany, for example, this is one of the focus area of the National Social Innovation Strategy. And there is a draft procurement law that proposed that sustainability and social criteria should become actually standard in public procurement. However, this process is still not completed, and this project is still under the coordination with the federal states. So again, the future remains uncertain. Then we have the improved regulatory standards, for example, when it comes to greenwashing and transparency. So if governments introduce more stricter rules against greenwashing and require greater transparency on how products have been produced and distributed, companies that are social and environmental responsible would gain, of course, a more competitive advantage. And again, the Green Claim Directive, for now, it's in a limbo, so we don't know how this process will be continued and if it will be continued. Another recommendation is that the reporting duties and administrative tasks for small social innovation projects and initiatives are actually very hard, because they don't have the resources, and simplifying these requirements could be an important step. And then, sorry, I skipped the last one, which is quite important. There is a need to develop more impact-oriented funding criteria and monitoring frameworks, because social innovation are always very impact oriented. Especially when it comes to social impacts, and what is relevant for our project, also environmental impact. And this impact-oriented funding criteria would simplify then the application process, or would kind of provide more opportunities for social innovation projects. And the last cluster is on strengthening collaboration and public awareness. There is a need of public education, of outreach that promotes and that fosters the understanding of social innovation benefits. What is social innovation? What are the goals of social innovation? What are the impacts? And this could also improve the acceptance and support more broader societal impact. There's a need to facilitate the networking and the collaboration among different stakeholders, also connect social innovation initiators with government, with private sectors, establish really long-lasting partnerships. And my last slide is about the relevance of these policy recommendations, or how we could integrate them in the ongoing policy developments. So now there is the strategic plan for the upcoming Research and Innovation Framework Program, the FP10, and this offers a real chance to secure dedicated funding for social innovation, especially within the key thematic clusters of Horizon Europe, if they still remain in this form. But here we need dedicated topics on social innovation, and not only having social innovation across different topics is a cross-cutting priority. Right now, the European bioeconomy strategy is under review, and there was a public consultation where we actually prepared feedback based on our stakeholders and contributed. Let's see how far this will be integrated or reflected in the new strategy. It will come towards the end of the year. We have the European semester country-specific recommendations, and here, when they are transformed into the national strategies, social innovation could play a more central role. We have in the policy paper also the Green Claim Directive as a window of opportunity, but as I said, still unclear. And then last but not least, this is the implementation of the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive that has been adopted in 2024, but now the transposition at the national level could offer an opportunity to shape like kind of a more level playing field amongst different stakeholders and for social innovation actors. And with this, I am ready to hand over to Stefanos, and I'm really looking forward to your presentation and how social innovation work in the practice from your perspective.
Thank you, Zorica. As mentioned, so you can find the link to the policy recommendations in the chat, as well as on the 3Co website, and there you will also find the brochure that John introduced with the 17 examples. One of these 17 examples we included is Taramaki, a social initiative from Greece. And I'm looking forward to welcome one of the founders, Stefanos Kamperis. He is an electrical engineer with a master's degree in product innovation and development from the University of Brighton, and with a background in leading research and development departments in Greek industries. He later transitioned to consulting for Japanese firms and established European sales networks and international partnerships. He's one of the founders and the president of Taramaki Social Initiative, a venture that produces biodegradable wheat-based straws, focusing on sustainability and job creation for vulnerable groups. Thank you for joining us today, Stefanos.
Thank you for having me. In order for the audience to understand what we are doing, we prepared a presentation that starts with a video. Unfortunately, there's no sound, so I'll try to narrate over it. Please let me see if you can see the presentation full screen so we can go ahead now.
As we can't hear the sound, Stefanos, maybe you can say a little bit about the images we see along the way.
There is though the text, so I wouldn't want to confuse people. But here you will see the production procedure in which we've automated the cutting process that we have to follow. So we cut the stems that we collect. This is done now in a machine. Previously, we used to do it with scissors. The stems, after that, they have to be boiled. We use no chemicals in the process. We sterilize that with hot air. Then each one goes through a quality control, and they are individually or boxed wrapped. The remaining, the waste of our production process is being crushed, and we supply that to the local runs, which is being transformed into compost, which we then again spray back to the fields. This is a form of regenerative agriculture. So I hope that you understood what we're doing. We produce drinking straws that you can drink your coffee. Cold coffee is very famous in Greece. Without having the problem of of paper straw being that they mulch after 20 or 30 minutes. So we produce drinking straws. We do that in Kilkis. So let me introduce by saying that our starting point was not an opportunity but a crisis. I live in a small village in the north part of Greece, a very poor rural region, agricultural region called Kilkis. Kilkis is losing the people. We have lost more than 30% of the population in the last decade. This is a phenomenon usual to the rural region of all Europe. In Greece, in our region though, 72% of the land is threatened by desertification. And in Greece, as I told you before, we love cold coffee. And together with the tourists, we consume around 2 billion straws every year. So these problems, depopulation, environmental degradation, and plastic pollution became the ground where our idea was born. We founded Staramaki in 2019 to face these challenges head on. So the first collaboration was made with L'Oréal, and recognition followed by the recognition by the European Social Economy Award to the Nestlé and Nespresso partnership, proving that a small cooperative from Kilkis can stand alongside global players without losing the social mission. Before going on, let me pause here saying that I do agree with the recommendation you've made before. In Greece, the social economy faces serious obstacles, lack of access to finance, exclusion from innovative registries, outdated legal frameworks. So you've named most of them before, but I'd like to mention that Greece is indeed very much behind in terms of social economy and social innovation. And we're not being treated as companies, as you said very clearly before. And we believe that if Greece wants to unlock the potential of social economy and social innovation, it must create a level playing field like is being done in other more advanced European countries. And this is the importance of social innovation. Innovation in the traditional sense creates value. Social innovation creates values. We do more than profit. We do fairness, we do sustainability, inclusion, and we do that into the economy itself. So let me describe the market of straws. So the market is full of so-called alternatives to plastic straws that were banned in Europe from 2021. So there are paper, bamboo, bioplastic, steel, glass. Most of them, though, come with hidden costs, deforestation, high emissions, chemicals, or impracticality, like the paper one. Staramaki stands apart. It's grown by nature. It is processed without chemicals. It's fully biodegradable, and it's made in Greece with local farmers, supporting local economy, a product that comes from the earth and returns to earth. As you can see, we've been recognized for our efforts from UNHCR, WWF, UNFCCC, and Greenpeace. In terms of the competition, in terms of the paper straw, you all know that the paper straw will go soggy in 20 minutes. The stem of the plant will never go soggy. It's meant to maintain its structure. It's in water. The paper straws are advertised as plastic-free, but in reality, they are covered with PFA chemicals, like forever chemicals, in order to prolong, let's say, the durability in water. We have no PFAS in our straws. There are the bioplastic straws, but in order, for example, to produce a kilo of bioplastic straws, you would need to emit 247 grams of CO2. Staramaki comes from the plant. A plant absorbs CO2. We all know that during its growth. And now in Greece, I think in Europe also, because paper straw failed to satisfy the customers, we see now the return of plastic straw in a format called reusable ones. Of course, nobody ever reuses them. The material of these straws are 4 to 10 times more than the normal plastic one. So you can see that we've not only eliminated the problem, but made it bigger. Staramaki is identified by IUCN as a nature-based solution. For those of you that do not know what the term is, please go ahead and find out. There are solutions that are inspired and supported by nature. Of course, we do measure our impact. Every social company should do that, and should measure, I would also say, critical indexes. For example, we do measure the gene index in the company, which is let's say, the difference in the salaries between, let's say, the biggest paid one with the weakest paid one. So in our company, this is near zero. We all get pretty much the same values for the similar amount of work. Of course, we do have an educational impact. We've been visited by many schools that want to understand what bioeconomy and circular economy and social innovation is in practice. We've published papers regarding, of course, nature-based solution, and together with the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, we've conducted a comparative study between paper straws, our straws, and different kinds of straws regarding the morphological characteristics, let's say, of each straw and its advantages. We've been featured in different Horizon 2020 projects, as you can see here, and participated in different ones, most regarding social innovation. And we've created a product with a unique selling point. It doesn't go soggy. It has no chemicals, no PFAS. It doesn't contain any gluten. It's the stem of the wheat plant. It of course, will biodegrade, and it is made in Greece. So it's more than a straw. That's why we have collaborated with brands that understand and support this idea, like the one I've mentioned before. In full collaboration with Nespresso, now we are the first locally produced, non-important product ever to be sold by Nespresso, Greek product. And we produce straws in two types, the normal boxed one and the individually wrapped one. The production output increases every year. Now that the automation phase is undergoing, we will expand this to further in the years to come. And that was it. Thank you for having me, and I would love to ask to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Stefanos. I would like to catch up immediately on your presentation. And something I think we saw throughout all of the examples that we looked into is that most of these social initiatives and social innovations start at the local community level, and they address the specific needs of a certain community or group. You mentioned in your presentation that support is urgently needed on the local level. So what support would you embrace to have received in order to scale up your innovation and make it progress?
The way that as I told you, there was no support to social entities, social companies. So we were founded as a social enterprise, but because of these obstacles, we've changed a legal form. So this was a barrier as a legal entity. We couldn't get funding for what we were doing. So it's a product that needs heavy manufacturing, so machines that cost real money, and real R&D that needs to be made. So these numbers do not usually come from small social funds. We needed something bigger. So this is something that needs to be addressed. I think access to funding in a way that the standard companies have, like equity, but with another structure.
Thank you. And I see that Zorica has her hand raised. Would you like to catch up on this as well?
Yeah, I mean, I had a very similar question actually, because I saw you're participating in different Horizon projects, and I wanted to ask if this is your main kind of funding program. And did I understand correctly that as a social enterprise, you couldn't apply for this project, that you needed to change your legal status, or was it connected to something else?
In Greece, all startups need to register to the startup registry of National Startup Registry in order to get access to this funding. So, but social enterprises are excluded from this registry. We are not considered startups when we started up.
Okay. Thank you.
And I would like to continue with John. So one of the reasons we looked into social innovation is because FRICO is striving to implement social innovation on the industry level in the EU bioeconomy. What do you think, what hinders adaptation of such solutions up to this point? Like, what do your case study experiences indicate?
I would say that the appreciation of the contribution that social innovations can make is still a bit unknown. They are not highly visible. And yeah, Zorica pointed out several of the issues that they're facing. So I think it's not one of the factors that will help is visibility. And that's why we included those in the brochure. And also had a broad range to highlight that you find them in different sectors and addressing different social issues.
And to take it to Zorica from there, you mentioned the implementation on policy level in general. But what measures would you foresee or wish for to see it fostered specifically in the bioeconomy?
Well, just first maybe to add on what John said, I mean, one of the major challenges was that actually social innovation initiatives, they're rather small. It's these issues with how many people are involved. They're like small entities, 2 to 3 persons. And if you want to apply for funding, you need really not only the money, you need the staff. And this is one major challenge. They're always very, very small. As for your question, the bioeconomy offers a lot of opportunities, or social innovation offers a lot of opportunities for scaling up bioeconomy, because bioeconomy, I mean, it happens also at regional level. Yeah, you have this community approach there, and it's important that the bioeconomy creates the regional added value, and this is where social innovation comes in. If you want to develop bio-based business models, I mean, actually the example of Stefanos is a real bio-based business models, because you use natural resources, you produce bio-based product, you have the social innovation aspect, and we need more from this project where you also involve natural resources, people on the ground from this region, and you create this economic, social, and environmental added value for the region.
And 3Co is specifically looking into certification. So maybe Stefanos could tell us, did you consider certification? Did you encounter any obstacles of something not matching, or not even implementing social innovation in the certification scheme?
No, the problem with certification in our case has to do with the product itself, because it's new. There are no how you say, methodology to test it or to put it under a specific label. For example, we are not considered an agricultural product, so our tax is again higher than what it should be, and that's because of European law. So even though I'm sure you understand, we are an agricultural product. So these things needs to be addressed before, I think, discussing the certification in terms of social innovation. We are very much in the basics with that.
And maybe John and Zorica could also catch up on this. How do you see social innovation implemented in future certification schemes?
Well, I mentioned this already, by paying more attention to social, human rights, job creation, social aspects. When you have certification, to include this as criteria, and certification criteria could be an option.
Anything to add from John's side?
Well, it means that, for instance, in public procurement, these are criteria that can be included when the government or government authorities seek to buy products and wish to promote social innovation, social enterprises.
And I would also like to address the questions from the audience. One goes to Zorica. You did mention that standardized impact assessment could help social innovation actors. But what about the costs of running such assessments? We see many companies not participating in B Corp anymore because of the costs and the doubts about their sincerity.
Thank you. I don't see these questions, but I didn't mean like standardized impact assessment. The idea was that if you, for example, apply for a project, you need to stronger look from a funding perspective at the social impact of the project and to award this. Because if you have this social impact and not economic, like prioritizing the social impact, this could help or at least simplify the access for social innovation to funding. Maybe you can explain, if you want to jump in discussion, what are the challenges of those companies that are not participating, to better understand the background, if you want. Is this from Florian, the question? I am guessing.
Anonymous.
It's actually
Okay.
an anonymous attendee.
Okay.
But maybe we can continue with Florian's question. It addresses Stefanos. Are you planning on expanding your product range further? And do you think other products might have similar success despite their bad competition products that are not yet banned? Or is the ban regulation the main window of opportunity for such products?
I would like to think that we should have never been using plastics when we had a nature-based solution all along in our hands. Now it is for our convenience that we've changed into plastic. So I think the ban was also a reason for us starting. It was, if it wasn't for the ban, I would have never done the research. Having said that, I'd like to mention that this is not my innovation. The drinking straw comes from the Sumerians almost 2,000 years ago. It was their invention back then. So I think the ban did create a momentum, but I think the momentum was it should have been existed before that. Let's say.
And we have some more questions from Abiola from Benin. Do you think social innovation is the next paradigm opportunity for sustainable development goals number 1 and 2? Also, do you hold data on implementing these case studies? And also, what about African participation in social innovation? Maybe you came across some examples in your long list.
Well, to reflect on this, the first two SDGs are no poverty and no hunger. Certainly, social innovation can contribute to achieving these social development goals. I think, as in many cases, they may be part of the solution. Saritza pointed out the number of challenges and barriers that social innovations face, so it's definitely not easy. Do we have examples from Africa? Well, we didn't, but we could have easily had we been looking for them, because I'm completely convinced that there are good examples to be found. We do not have any data on cases in Africa, unfortunately.
Thank you very much. And I think these are all the questions we received so far. If anyone wants spontaneously to type in something before we wrap up. But otherwise, I would ask the speakers whether you would like to conclude maybe a future outlook on social innovation implementation in the EU.
Well, maybe a lot is happening right now. I mentioned the European bioeconomy strategy, the upcoming Horizon Europe, the new, won't be called Horizon Europe, but FP10 program. There are a lot of windows of opportunities, and we can only hope that social innovation won't be just mentioned as a term, or this strategy won't just highlight the importance of social innovation, but really develop more dedicated funding measures and programs and support this, because there is clear need of support this kind of projects.
Clearly. Anyone else?
Yeah, I can only emphasize what Saritza has been saying. What is a matter of concern is, of course, as was a bit hearable from her presentation, is that the momentum for social innovation seems to have weakened a bit. And well, there can be a zillion reasons for that. So definitely, it's not a low, what do you call it in English? It's not an automatic that it will continue. So any attention we can bring to this is needed.
Anything you would like to add, Stefanos?
Yeah, from my side, I'd like to say that innovation comes from crisis. It is there that we have to find resilience. Times are dark and are getting darker, so I do hope that we keep continuing to innovate and we don't lose hope. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the presentation.
Thanks to everyone for your presentations, for your input. And if you would like to hear a little bit more on social innovation, we will have a dedicated session at our final 3CO event on the 21st of October, with also some more case study examples from, for example, the Juncker app, who are providing an application to support packaging recycling for households, and also some representatives of the European Commission in order to initiate dialogue. So we hope to see you there. We'll send you an information once the recording and the slides are available, and thank all participants and hope to see you next time. Thank you so much. See you soon. Bye-bye.